Right then, Forest faithful, what I'm about to share with you will leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about revelations that expose the inner workings of our beloved club like never before. The past few days have been nothing short of extraordinary at the City Ground. 5 massive stories have emerged that'll reshape how you view this football club forever. I'm talking about financial figures that'll make your eyes water, behind-the-scenes drama that reads like a soap opera, and legal victories that have left the entire football establishment red-faced. First up, we've got the shocking truth about our summer spending spree. The numbers are staggering, absolutely staggering. We're talking about a transfer window that sent shockwaves through the Premier League, and the final tally will blow your mind completely. Then there's the story of a young French winger who did something so classy, so professional, that it's already won over every Forest fan before he's even kicked a ball. This lad's attention to detail reveals everything about his character and ambition. But it's not all good news. One of our departing players has found himself in an absolutely nightmare situation. A deadline day move that should have been his fresh start has turned into a bureaucratic disaster that'll leave him watching from the sidelines. Speaking of legal battles, our club has just achieved something that will be remembered for decades. A landmark victory against the Football Association that's left their entire disciplinary system in tatters. The compensation we've received is just the tip of the iceberg. And finally, there's the transfer saga that's causing serious friction behind the scenes. Our gaffer desperately wanted one particular player, someone he knew could transform our attack. The fact he didn't get him might explain some recent tensions. Now, before I reveal these earth-shattering details, I need you to do something. Which story has you most intrigued? The massive spending figures, the classy new signing, the legal triumph, or the behind-the-scenes drama? Hit that like button right now. Seriously, do it. Because once I start dropping names and numbers, you'll be too shocked to remember. Drop a comment with your prediction about which revelation will surprise you most. The first bombshell involves spending figures that make even Manchester City look modest. When football fans talk about massive transfer windows, they usually point to the usual suspects. Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, clubs with seemingly bottomless pockets that can splash cash without consequence. But what if I told you that Nottingham Forest have just completed a transfer window that puts even those giants to shame? What if the numbers I'm about to reveal will make you question everything you thought you knew about our club's ambitions? Ladies and gentlemen, Evangelos Marinakis has just overseen a transfer window worth an absolutely staggering 180 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. 180 million pounds. That's more than most Premier League clubs spend in 3 transfer windows combined. This isn't just squad building. This is a statement of intent that echoes across European football. 13 new players through the door, 17 departures, and a complete transformation of what it means to be Nottingham Forest in the modern game. Nuno Espirito Santo was crystal clear about his requirements heading into the final days of the window. As long as we bring what we need before the end of the market, I think we are going to be okay, he declared. Little did anyone realize the scale of ambition backing those words. The Portuguese coach had identified specific areas needing strengthening. Fullbacks were a priority. Another goalkeeper was essential, but what he received exceeded even his wildest expectations. Deadline day alone was worth tens of millions. Delaney Bakwa arrived for $35 million from Strasbourg, Alexander Zinchenko joined on loan from Arsenal, Cuiabano signed from Botafogo, and goalkeeper John Victor completed the defensive reinforcements. But here's what makes this spending spree truly remarkable. It's not just about the money, it's about the vision. Chief Football Officer Ross Wilson perfectly captured the strategy. We have worked extensively all summer to ensure we have a competitive squad that has a blend of youth and experience ready to compete in all competitions. The man orchestrating this football revolution deserves enormous credit. Marinakis hasn't just invested money, he's invested in a dream. Europa League football demands squad depth that can compete on multiple fronts. And these signings provide exactly that. The financial commitment represents more than player acquisition. It's about changing perceptions. When you spend $180 million in one window, you're telling the football world that Forest are no longer content with mere survival. Ross Wilson worked alongside head of recruitment Pedro Ferreira and global technical director George Sirianos to identify and secure these targets. The complexity of coordinating 13 signings while managing 17 departures cannot be understated. Marinakis' son Miltiadis couldn't contain his excitement, posting social media updates throughout deadline day. "What a day," he wrote, alongside images of Sky Sports coverage and the club's transfer team hard at work. This spending spree wasn't without its challenges. Getting deals completed took longer than Nuno preferred, leading to his brutal assessment about the slow pace of business earlier in the summer. The Portuguese wanted players integrated early to allow proper betting in time. The relationship between Nuno and global head of football Edu has faced strain during this process, with disagreements over priorities and timelines. But the final result speaks for itself. A squad packed with quality and potential. What's truly impressive is the balance achieved. Youth prospects like those arriving from Botafogo represent future investment, while experienced professionals like Zinchenko provide immediate impact and leadership. The $180 million figure isn't just about one transfer window. It's about laying foundations for sustainable success. Europa League revenue, increased commercial appeal, and improved player values will help justify this extraordinary investment. When fans reflect on this summer and years to come, they'll remember it as the moment Forest announced their arrival as genuine contenders rather than hopeful survivors. Do you think $180 million represents smart investment or dangerous overspending? Can this level of expenditure be justified by our European qualification? Let me know your thoughts below. But if massive spending has impressed you, wait until you hear about the young Frenchman whose professionalism has already won everyone over. In modern football, first impressions matter more than ever. Social media scrutinizes every detail. Fans judge character within seconds, and professionalism often determines whether players succeed or fail at new clubs. What I'm about to tell you reveals exactly why some players thrive while others struggle to adapt. It's about respect, attention to detail, and understanding the magnitude of opportunity. When Delaine Bakwa arrived at the City Ground to complete his $35 million transfer from Strasbourg, he did something that immediately caught everyone's attention. Something that shows he understands exactly what this move means for his career. The 23-year-old French winger turned up for his medical and media commitments wearing a perfectly tailored shirt and tie, complete with smart suit trousers. In an era where young players often arrive in trackies and designer trainers, Bakwa's immaculate presentation spoke volumes. This might seem like a minor detail to some, but in today's football culture, it's absolutely refreshing to see a young professional treat his signing day with such reverence and respect. The club shared behind-the-scenes footage of Bakwa's medical and interview process, and his smart attire immediately caught fans' attention. Here's a player who clearly views joining Forest as a massive step up in his career, and he wanted to make the perfect first impression. Bakwa's attention to detail extends far beyond clothing choices. His statistical output at Strasbourg last season, 6 goals and 9 assists, demonstrates the end product that made him such an attractive target for Forest's recruitment team. But it's his mentality that's most impressive. The Frenchman spoke about his excitement to work under Nuno Espirito Santo, recognizing the opportunity to develop his game in the Premier League's demanding environment. With Dan Doy and Omari Hutchinson already settled at the club, plus Callum Hudson-Odoi providing additional competition, Forest's attacking options have become genuinely exciting. Bakwa could be the pick of the bunch, offering pace, creativity, and crucial goal contributions. The versatile 23-year-old possesses exactly the attributes that can get fans out of their seats on Trentside. His combination of technical ability and physical presence suggests he's perfectly suited to Premier League football's intensity. What's particularly encouraging is Bakwa's mature approach to this career-defining move. Turning up in formal attire might seem old-fashioned, but it demonstrates respect for the club, the opportunity, and the significance of the moment. In an age where young players sometimes take opportunities for granted, Bakwa's professionalism suggests he'll approach training, matches, and club responsibilities with the same attention to detail. This isn't just about making a good impression. It's about setting standards that influence team culture. When new signings arrive with this level of professionalism, it raises expectations for everyone around them. Nuno will have been delighted to see Bakwa's approach. Managers love working with players who understand the importance of details, who treat every aspect of their profession seriously. The fact that Bakwa felt compelled to dress so smartly suggests he genuinely wanted this move to Forest. He wasn't just going through the motions, he was making a statement about his commitment and ambition. Even before kicking a ball in the Garibaldi, Bakwa has already demonstrated the character traits that suggest he'll be successful at the City ground. His professionalism bodes well for his integration into the squad. The competition for starting positions in Forest's attack is fierce, but Bakwa's approach suggests he's ready for that challenge. Players who pay attention to details usually excel when it matters most. Ndoye has already broken a 27-year club record in his first 3 appearances, setting a high bar for new attackers. But Bakwa's quality and mentality suggest he could challenge for an immediate starting spot. Forest fans should be excited about this signing, not just because of his technical ability, but because of the character he's already shown. Players with this level of professionalism often become cult heroes. What do you think about Bakwa's smart arrival? Does this kind of attention to detail matter in modern football? Or am I reading too much into clothing choices? Share your thoughts below. Speaking of clothing choices, the next story involves a player whose wardrobe concerns are the least of his problems right now. Parte 4, Notícia. Ver 3, Jota Silva's nightmare, 4,500 characteres. Deadline day transfers can be stressful, chaotic, and sometimes absolutely heartbreaking. What I'm about to tell you perfectly captures everything that can go wrong when paperwork, timing, and bureaucracy collide. It's a story that'll make you feel genuinely sorry for a player whose Forest career never quite ignited, but whose next chapter has already hit a devastating roadblock before it's even begun. After struggling to establish himself at the City ground, appearing in just 5 league starts and failing to make an impact when opportunities arose, one of our departing wingers thought he'd found the perfect escape route. Jota Silva secured a deadline day move back to Portugal with Sporting CP, reuniting with his former Vitória boss Rui Borges in what seemed like the ideal solution for everyone involved. Forest needed to trim the squad, Silva needed regular playing time, and Sporting wanted a player they knew could deliver in familiar surroundings. On paper, it was a textbook transfer that would benefit all parties. But here's where this story takes a absolutely devastating turn that highlights the cruel realities of modern football bureaucracy. While Sporting completed the paperwork to sign Silva from Forest before the deadline, they somehow missed the registration deadline for their domestic league campaign. The Portuguese outfit got their man, but he can't actually play in the competition he was primarily signed for. According to reports from Ebola, Silva finds himself in an absolutely bizarre limbo. He's officially a Sporting player. He's training with his new teammates, but he's only eligible for League Cup and Champions League fixtures. Imagine being a professional footballer who can't play in your new club's league matches. It's like being a chef who's banned from cooking main courses. Technically employed, but practically useless for your primary purpose. This administrative nightmare couldn't have come at a worse time for Silva's career. At his age, every season matters for development and establishing himself as a reliable professional. Instead of the fresh start he desperately needed, he's facing months of frustration. The timing is particularly cruel because Silva had already endured a difficult period at Forest. Despite showing promise from the bench occasionally, he never quite demonstrated the consistency required for regular Premier League football. Silva will be devastated if this registration issue can't be resolved by the authorities. His short-term career plans have been thrown into complete chaos through no fault of his own. The irony is that Silva worked incredibly hard during his time at Forest and deserves credit for being part of the squad that secured Europa League qualification. He may not have been a starring performer, but he contributed when called upon. This situation perfectly illustrates how Forest have outgrown certain players as the club's ambitions have evolved. Silva simply couldn't compete with the quality of Dan Ndoye, Omari Hutchinson, and Delane Bakwa. Letting Silva return to Portugal felt like the right decision for everyone involved. He needed regular football to develop his career, and Forest needed squad space for higher quality additions. But this registration disaster transforms what should have been a positive move into a potential career setback. Silva might find himself watching Sporting's league matches from the stands, wondering what went wrong. The bureaucratic incompetence that created this mess reflects poorly on Sporting's administrative staff. How do you sign a player but forget to register him for your primary competition? For Silva, this represents the harsh realities of professional football. Sometimes your career can be derailed by factors completely beyond your control. Incompetent administrators, missed deadlines, bureaucratic confusion. The player will be hoping Sporting can resolve this situation quickly, perhaps through appeals or special dispensation from Portuguese football authorities. But these processes can take months, potentially wasting precious career development time. Silva's nightmare serves as a reminder that football transfers aren't just about agreements between clubs and players. They're complex administrative processes where small mistakes can have devastating consequences. This story also highlights why some players struggle to progress in their careers. Sometimes it's not about ability or attitude, but about circumstances beyond their control. Do you feel sorry for Silva's situation, or is this just an unfortunate part of professional football? Should clubs be held responsible when their administrative errors affect players' careers? Let me know your thoughts. The next revelation involves a legal battle that has left the Football Association absolutely humiliated. What I'm about to reveal represents one of the most significant legal victories in modern English football, a landmark case that has exposed systemic bias within a sport's governing body and forced them into a humiliating climb down. For decades, the Football Association has operated with an air of untouchable authority. Their disciplinary panels have been treated as the final word on football justice. Their decisions rarely challenged, their processes assumed to be fair and impartial. But Nottingham Forest have just shattered that illusion completely, winning a legal battle that has sent shockwaves through the entire football establishment. The story begins with our infamous social media post following that controversial 2-0 defeat at Everton last April. After watching VAR official Stuart Atwell fail to award 3 clear penalties, our club posted a tweet that reached 40 million views. 3 extremely poor decisions, 3 penalties not given, which we simply cannot accept. We warned the PGMO that the VAR is a Luton fan before the game, but they didn't change him. Our patience has been tested multiple times. NFFC will now consider its options. The FA's response was predictably vindictive. They charged Forest with bringing the game into disrepute and initially sought a staggering $1 million fine, eventually settling on $750,000, still an astronomical punishment for highlighting obvious officiating bias. But here's where this story becomes a masterclass in exposing institutional prejudice. Graham McPherson, the chair of the FA's disciplinary panel, rejected Forrest's defense with a dismissive comment that would ultimately destroy his credibility and the entire system's reputation. McPherson described Forrest's submission as somewhat hysterical, a characterization that was not just inappropriate, but revealed clear personal bias against our club. When Forest appealed this decision, the FA made an absolutely extraordinary error in judgment. They appointed the same Graham McPherson to chair the appeal proceedings, seemingly oblivious to how ridiculous this appeared. Even McPherson eventually recognized the absurdity of the situation and recused himself, citing pre-existing commitments. But the damage to the FA's credibility was already irreversible. The plot thickened when Forest faced separate charges following a mass brawl during our clash against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We were fined $125,000 and decided to appeal, only to discover that the FA had once again selected McPherson to chair the proceedings. This was the moment Forest decided enough was enough. Our legal team argued that McPherson's previous hysterical comment demonstrated clear bias and demanded his removal from any cases involving our club. The independent arbitration panel's ruling was absolutely devastating for the FA and personally humiliating for McPherson. They determined that his comments were unjustified, inappropriate, and a personal attack on Forest and our legal representatives. The panel concluded that McPherson suffers from apparent bias in relation to the club and should not be involved in any Forest-related proceedings. Their judgment was scathing. There can be no doubt but that the description as somewhat hysterical can fairly be said to be, and would be seen by the notional fair-minded independent observer to be an unjustified, inappropriate, and personal attack on the club and its legal representatives. Now, the result. The FA has been ordered to pay Forest a significant 6-figure compensation sum. a figure that represents far more than mere financial recompense. This ruling establishes a precedent that could transform how football's governing bodies operate. No longer can they hide behind claims of impartiality when their bias is clearly demonstrated. The implications extend far beyond Forest's individual case. Manchester City with their 115 charges, Chelsea with ongoing investigations, and every club that has faced questionable FA decisions will be studying this precedent carefully. Forest's legal victory proves that football's establishment can be challenged, exposed, and held accountable for their prejudices. The days of meek acceptance of biased decisions are over. What makes this victory even sweeter is that it wasn't just about money. It was about principle, justice, and refusing to be bullied by an institution that had operated with impunity for too long. Do you think this legal victory will change how the FA operates in future cases? Should more clubs follow Forest's example and challenge biased decisions? Drop your thoughts below. But if you think legal battles are dramatic, wait until you hear about the transfer saga that's causing serious tension behind the scenes. Behind every football club's public face lies a complex web of relationships, disagreements, and compromises that can make or break a manager's tenure. What I'm about to reveal exposes the growing tensions at the heart of Nottingham Forest's decision-making process. The relationship between Nuno Espirito Santo and our recruitment team has become increasingly strained. And it all centers around one player our Portuguese manager desperately wanted but couldn't get. When Anthony Elanga's $52 million departure to Newcastle left a gaping hole on Forest's right flank, Nuno believed he had identified the perfect replacement. Not just any replacement, but someone he knew intimately, someone whose unique skill set he could unlock once again. Adama Traoré, the explosive Fulham winger who had thrived under Nuno's guidance at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Nuno's reasoning for wanting Traoré was both tactically sound and psychologically astute. He genuinely believed he understood how to extract maximum performance from this complex player, having previously transformed the Spaniard into one of the Premier League's most feared attacking threats. But there was a deeper strategic element to Nuno's thinking. He recognized that Traoré's mere presence could terrorize opposition defenses even when not starting matches. Simply seeing the Spanish speedster warming up on the touchline would send nervous ripples through defensive lines. However, according to detailed reports from The Athletic, while Nuno pushed relentlessly for the Traoré reunion, other targets were being prioritized by the recruitment hierarchy. This disagreement became a source of frustration for Nuno, suggesting the tension ran much deeper than simple tactical preferences. When coaches feel their vision is being undermined, it creates uncomfortable working environments that affect everyone. The situation has reportedly caused a deterioration in Nuno's relationship with Chief Football Officer Edu, with this specific transfer saga becoming a significant point of contention between manager and recruitment team. Instead of Traoré, Forest secured Dan Ndoye from Bologna and later invested $35 million in Delane Bakwa from Strasbourg. Both excellent players, but neither possessing the specific attributes Nuno craved from his former Wolves star. This situation perfectly illustrates modern football's complex power structures, where managers' tactical visions must compete with recruitment teams' budget constraints and alternative opportunities. Nuno's frustration becomes more understandable when considering his precarious position at the club. His future has been questioned repeatedly, with speculation about potential replacements if results don't improve quickly. When managers feel job security is threatened, being denied key transfer targets becomes exponentially more frustrating. Traoré represented familiarity, proven chemistry, and guaranteed tactical understanding, luxuries that coaches under pressure desperately need. The irony is that Bakwa might actually provide many attributes Nuno sought from Traoré. The Frenchman offers pace, power, and crucially significantly better end product than the Spaniard has consistently delivered throughout his career. Bakwa's 14 goal contributions for Strasbourg last season suggest he could provide both the dynamism Nuno wanted and the clinical finishing that Traoré has always lacked. But football isn't just about statistics and logical analysis. It's about relationships, trust, and understanding between players and coaches. Nuno knew exactly how to motivate Traoré, how to position him tactically, how to maximize his strengths while minimizing weaknesses. This transfer saga reveals the delicate ecosystem within football clubs. When coaches and recruitment teams aren't perfectly aligned, it affects team chemistry, tactical preparation, and ultimately on-field performance. The question now is whether Nuno can adapt his tactical vision to incorporate his new wingers effectively, or whether the Traoré disappointment will continue influencing